I booked 147 meetings through cold email in 2024. And this year, I'm helping reps hit 12% reply rates, land enterprise deals, and generate pipeline that actually converts through cold email. But the biggest myth that I see in this space and with the reps that I work with is more emails equals better. It's not true at all. And in this video, I'm just going to break down the real math behind outbound. So you'll learn how to size your strategy based on your market and how to check if your system's even working and if you've earned the right to scale and start booking more meetings. So let me just like preempt this whole video with I fell into the camp that more equals better. In my first SDR role, it was 2023. I'd only ever done face-to-face sales. I'd done face-to-face for a year, real estate, insurance over the phone, all B2C. But I'd never done B2B, never used LinkedIn, never sent a B2B cold email, never made a B2B cold call, never done anything in this space, right? So I just thought like brute force volume will win because when I used to do face to face, they taught me the importance of understanding my numbers and all this stuff, but I didn't know the numbers because I was new to it. So I thought, okay, if I just send like 1,000 messages, that will work. So in my first month or my first 2 months of ramp, I sent over like 2,000 emails and I booked one meeting from 2,000. And it was awful. Like my first 2 months of ramp, I think I hit like 50% and then like 40%. And then month three, because I actually figured out, what to do. I did well and hit like 180%, which took my overall ramp for the 3 months to 150%. So again, like I fell into this camp. I made this mistake, which is why I'm talking you through it, just so you don't make the same mistakes that I did. So the first thing and the first step to understanding like your numbers is know your TAM. So TAM just stands for total addressable market. So there's different segments of reps. So typically, especially if you're in a bigger company where they actually understand outbound, you'll have SMB, which stands for small and medium businesses. You'll have mid market, which is again mid-sized companies, and enterprise, which is large companies, strategic, which is like the biggest, right? But if you're an SMB rep, like you have to understand your math, which is that your deal cycles are lower. Like the value is sort of ACV 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. It's short sales cycles, it's high velocity deals, right? It's just a lot of volume, highly transactional deals and sales cycles. If you're doing mid market, again, it may be sort of, 15 to 40, $50,000 deals. The sales cycle, instead of it being like a month, maybe like 2 months, it may take a little bit longer. There's more people brought in. It's more slightly more strategic and enterprise again. This is, $50,000 deals, 100, $250 million even deals. And these take longer. Like it's going to be months. It may be like 6 month deal cycles, etc. And strategic is like multi-million-dollar deals. And again, like this is years. This is like huge, huge deals. So you need to understand that where you sit first. Like are you SMB, mid-market, enterprise, strategic? If you and as well, like this is another thing. If you're a rep and you're like, oh well, my manager says I can book a meeting with a company with like 50 people, and I can also go after one with 500,000. Always start on the lower side. Like, please do this. And the reason for this is you're paid based on meetings booked. So if you're targeted 10 meetings booked, which do you think it'll be easier to book 10 meetings with companies with 25 people who are small without that much outreach to them, or booking 10 meetings with Amazon, Google, like all these bigger, like obviously the smaller ones. So if you're just paid for meetings booked, always go to the lower side, right? And if you're in a segment, understand that. And, they've probably limited this. But yeah, just wanted to talk about that because it was weird for me. I could do SMB or mid market. I was like, obviously, I'm going to do mid. I get paid the same. So if I get paid the same, I'm going to optimize for my KPIs and my commission. But anyway, getting back to the topic. So understand your TAM. If you're doing SMB, you have hundreds of thousands of accounts, so many prospects you can go after. If you're doing mid market, there's less accounts, maybe like 1,000, maybe a few thousand. If you're doing enterprise, there's like a few hundred. If you're doing strategic, there's like a dozen, a hand-picked list of accounts, if you will. So you need to understand if you're doing enterprise, you can't put 1,000 people in a sequence because you'll just burn through your entire TAM. Like you'll literally go through every single account you could prospect, and then you're just sitting on your hands because there's not more leads that can be sourced, if that makes sense. So you really have to understand, like, are you going after SMB? And if so, you can do higher volume. If it's mid-market, you can't do as many. If it's enterprise, you have to be more thoughtful. So TAM, again, smaller TAM, the rule of thumb, is more thought per email. So more effort into it. You can spend more time on it because there's less email sent. And then the lower side, so higher TAM, larger TAM, is where you have more bats, more swings, so then you can focus on more automation and scale. That's the first point. The second thing is to know your numbers, right? And I was so grateful for my second ever sales job because he taught me all about metrics and how to make sales systematic. And one of the things they taught me is if you have an end outcome, you just need to reverse engineer your numbers to figure out how much you should be doing, right? So if you'll have been sending emails, doing calls, like you'll have the data. First off, track your data. Like if you don't have it, um, if you're not using a tool like, for cold calls like an Orem or Nux that's tracking it, manually track it. Like I used to use something called Tally App, and it's literally I'd set up columns for dials made, connect, conversations. Like you can do it. There's not an excuse, right? If you're doing emails, put it in a Google sheet, like a spreadsheet. There's always a reason to track. So don't give me the excuse if you don't have the tools, do it manual. Yes, it takes time, but then this is essential to figuring out where you can improve and what you need to do. So again, know your numbers. So let's go with the example of cold email as what we're talking about in this video. So if you want to book 6 meetings through email, that's great to have a goal, but a goal without a plan is just a dream. And that's something they used to tell us again in face to face. If I say I want to do something, but I have no clear action steps to get there, then it's just a dream. I'm just saying it, right? I'm not actually focused on it. So let's say I want to book 6 meetings, right? And from a reply rate to, you know, positive reply rate, meeting booked, minus 10%, right? So only 10% of the replies are actually going to be positive people wanting to book meetings. So that means I need 60 replies. Okay. So 60 people need to respond to me. And let's say, just as an example, I have a 10% reply rate. That means I need 60 replies because 60 replies, 10% positive, 6 meetings, boom. And let's say I have a 60% open rate. So that means I need 600 people, or like in general. So if I send 1,000 messages, right, 1,000 emails, 60% open, which is 600 opens, 10% reply, which is 60, 10% are positive, which is 6. So now I have my numbers. It's one. Instead of me saying, "Oh, I want to book 6 meetings," I'm saying I need to send 1,000 emails, 60 open, 10% reply, 10% positive. Again, these are just numbers to make it easy for math's sake, but you need to understand your numbers. So look at your previous month. I did this with a rep I'm working with now, and we went through her numbers. I was like, get them up. Like, what's your open rate? What's your reply rate? And her rates were incredible. Like, they were good. She had a 55% open rate, a 8% reply rate, and a 60% positive reply rate. Okay, so when we know the numbers, like without this, we can't find the gap. So if, for example, you have great open rate, but a terrible reply rate, then the copy's not resonating. If you have like a 20% open rate, then we probably have deliverability issues, or maybe you're not finding good contact info. So we need to work on your provider. Like knowing the numbers helps you to really understand like how to do more or better. Okay. The third thing is you get the system and then you scale it, right? So more doesn't equal better if you have a broken system. Pouring more water into a bucket with a hole in empties the bucket. Like it doesn't matter how much you pour in, it will always come out and it will never fill because you have gaps. So when people say do more, why would I do more if I have a 0% reply rate? Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and expecting a different outcome. If I'm not getting replies, why would I do more of the same? It doesn't work. So only when you have good numbers should you scale. So with this client, again, like I was saying, she had great open rate, good reply rate. I said to her, do more. She was like, oh, how can we improve the reply rate? I said, you don't need to improve the reply rate. Your reply rate is already, the average is like 0.5%. You're already a top 1% cold emailer. Do more. Like Alex Hormozy talks about this stuff about leverage, which I love, which is like we often think of like if you have a small business, right? It's like, okay, I have one sales guy and he's got like a 40% close rate. Okay, if I tweak it, it might get to 42%, or you could just hire another salesperson and double the business. And it's the same for you. Like you should think about your own business, right? So when you have the numbers, just put more into it because now we have this bucket that's secure, that's structured, and you're like dripping water and thinking, oh, how can I make sure we're gonna keep every single drop and make sure none leaves through humidity? Like just pour water, just get more volume in. So when you have the metrics, then we do more. But again, only do it when you have the numbers. So hopefully this answered the question of like more versus better. It's not the case at all. The first thing is like know your tab. Know even if more is a possibility. If you're doing enterprise strategic, more probably isn't the answer because you don't have enough swings at the bat. If I'm throwing one pitch, right, we can't just keep swinging because there's no balls to hit. The second thing is know your numbers. So only think, what are my open rate, reply rate, positive reply rate, meeting booked? When you have those numbers, then you can make a logical decision. Because without data, you're just going off feeling, which is irrational. We want to be rational and logical. The third thing is then we do more. So when you know you have enough accounts to go after, when we know your emails are working, then we do more because it's been set up. So hopefully this helped. Again, email is my favorite thing. It's my like go-to with the reps I coach. That's why I think Frank went from 2% reply rate to 12%. Christian took his team from 40 meetings a month to 90 meetings a month in 6 months. So again, if you want my support, this is like my bread and butter. I do outbound as a whole, but cold email is my thing. So if you want help to implement like a cold email operating system in your day to day, feel free to book a call in the description. We can have a chat. We can see if it's a fit. And if not, hopefully I can just give you some value either way. And hopefully this video